This computer. All right, welcome everybody. This is Civil Chat, your monthly dose of listening to Brian's talk about Civil 3D. Um, Welcome. If you haven't joined us before, we're really happy to see you here. If you have joined us before, what the hell? Must not be doing something wrong. Keep coming back. That's good. But yeah, so if this is your first time, this is your chance to ask questions. The Q&A panel is open, as was mentioned earlier. If you don't see it in the Zoom interface, make sure you click the More button, and you should be able to find it, hopefully. If you ask questions, we will do our best to answer them. If you don't ask questions, then we'll just sit and talk about our dogs or the snow or whatever the case may be. We're forecast to get some snow tomorrow, which is kind of exciting. So
Really?
about time.
Yeah, the winter storm warning said 6 to 9 inches within the metro area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty exciting stuff. We might actually break a foot of snow for the whole year. Get 6 inches.
Yeah, get some kind of snowpack going, man.
But before we started recording, we were talking about old AutoCAD commands. So Brian Tomasi here had mentioned the show direction command, SHOWDIR. I'd never heard of it before. But then we were talking about other commands, and there's a fun one. If y'all don't know about this one, it's just kind of fun. It's blip mode, right? So if you type blip mode, it says unknown command. Oh no, it's unknown. Well, it's not unknown. It's just undefined, or at least it was. I haven't tried this in 27 yet, and I'm running 27, so let's try this. So if you redefine blip mode, right, you can now type blip mode and set it to 1. And if you're not familiar with this, when you click on the screen, it leaves a little blip behind. Why anybody would ever want this on, I have no idea.
Um, Originally, when we were trying to do like rasterization and trace over something, it let you knew where you were tracing.
Oh,
But it's just where you click.
Right.
It's
But then you
just
know you
bizarre.
click. So as you're drawing a line, you would see where you had clicked. I don't know. That's all I could come
Yeah,
up with.
wouldn't you see the line?
Yeah, but I don't know. Don't ask me. I have
I
no
don't
idea.
either. But as soon as you pan or zoom, they go away. So I just, like pan around a little bit and they go away. But that's a fun one to do to somebody else's machine. Oh, but make sure you go back and undefine blip mode after you turn it on, because it's still on even though it's on. And people are like, oh, it's that blip mode thing. I can just type blip mode and it's unknown command.
wait, can you do that for show direction?
I tried.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think about doing that.
Yeah.
Just
Redefine,
yeah, they
show, dir doesn't do anything.
show direction, the whole if you type out the whole thing.
Okay. Redefine, show direction,
Yep, all one word.
unknown command.
Okay, still unknown.
Yeah. But if you don't want to
Josh,
redefine and undefined, you can just put a dot blip mode, and then you can turn it on and off there as well.
Cool.
So just something fun to do.
and if you really want to torture your coworkers, do that, and then also make their command line white text, and they'll
Brian,
go through a whole uninstall, reinstall to get those two things fixed.
you are so evil.
All right. So I always try to start off with something interesting, a little tidbit, something like that, while we're waiting for the avalanche of questions to come in. And I gotta admit, y'all are doing great so far. We don't have any. What the hell, people? Come on, ask questions. Okay. So what I thought I would do is I've got Civil 3D 2027 here. I'd show off some of the features that are available. One that I just recently learned about is was it geometry cleanup. Oh, this is cool. All right, so I'm gonna run geometry cleanup open. It's probably up on the ribbon somewhere. But what you can do is let me draw in a couple of polylines here. All right, and let's see, we'll do one like that. Actually, let's make that a little bit more like that. And I'm just going to explode this. So it's just they're just lines now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line and I'm going to move it. Let's get rid of this polar tracking and all these awful things here. All right, I'm going to move it just 0.01 units that direction. Right, so if I select both of these and I grab that grip, you can see I'm only grabbing one because they're not coincident. If I do the same thing down here and I grab both of those, You can see they both move because they are coincident. But I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take this one, but I'm going to make it even smaller. 0.00, oops, not point, 0.000001. So it's off by just a tad, right? But again, if I grab both of those and I grab that grip, I'm only editing one because they are not coincident. Cool. So in the geometry cleanup over here, I'm going to choose select objects, and I'm going to select all of those lines there. And it shows me, or it gives me options for tolerances, right? So my tolerances right now are 5.85. I'm not sure how they pick that. It's probably based off of the size of the objects, things like that. But I'm going to go ahead and scan this, and it finds some errors. So here's one that's fun. This absolute 90 degrees. So this line is really close to being vertical in the drawing, but it's not exactly, right? So it's showing me this as an option. And if I expand it out, I can click on it and it'll show me the error. And if I right click, and I think it's right click, I can fix, rotate at midpoint, rotate at endpoint, rotate at endpoint, or keep as designed, right? Which is cool. But I've got those two gaps there. But if you notice, it only shows one gap. Interesting. This gap over here must have been too big for it to find it as a gap, right? So when I expand this out and I click on this, oh no, that's the one it found. It did not find this gap down here, this really, really, really ridiculously small one. It didn't find it as a gap, which I thought was interesting. But this is really kind of cool. When I click on it and I right click on it, I can do these options on how I want to fix it. And what it does is it gives you a preview of how it will fix them. All right. So I'm going to do extend and trim. And now those have been fixed. And when I grab both of those and I grab that one grip, you can see I'm now moving both of them because they're now coincident. However,
is this a Civil 3D or an AutoCAD
this
tool?
is an AutoCAD function. But when I grab this one down here, they're still not coincident. So there's some really cool stuff here with the geometry cleanup, but it's not good enough in my opinion because it doesn't pick up on all the errors. We still have the drawing cleanup, which is just map clean. If you're not familiar with this one, this is a fantastic tool. So I'm going to do a map clean here, and we'll select those same objects. We'll choose next, and let's see, let's look for snap cluster nodes. So these will take objects that are really close to each other and snap them all together. So I'm just going to do that one cleanup here. So it should find anything that has a distance of less than 1/100th of a foot. And I'm going to turn the interactive option on, and I'm just going to choose next. Yeah, that's all fine. I'll just finish this. And you can see it did find that error. All right, so let me move this out of the way. So it did find that error. And then I can just fix it. But it doesn't give me all those cool fixing, those fixing options that the geometry cleanup did. All right, so the geometry cleanup has some really cool stuff that the geometry cleanup has some pretty cool things that the drawing cleanup does not, but the drawing cleanup finds all of the errors that the geometry cleanup doesn't. But I'll go ahead and fix this one. All right, and then we're done.
Tom wanted to know what the settings are in the geometry cleanup if you have a chance.
Yeah, and then you can see they are now coincident. So I'm sorry, what was that, Brian?
Tom wanted to know what the settings were in the geometry cleanup panel.
So we'll go into the settings here. And so I think this just brings up those cleanup tolerances. All right, so your gap, your overshoot, your undershoot, your absolute 0 degrees, absolute 90 degrees. So that's the truly horizontal, truly vertical, or relative 0 degrees. That would be two lines that should be, collinear, and relative 90 degrees. So those are two lines. So if I cancel out of this, and I'll just quickly draw two lines that should be close to perpendicular to each other. And then I'll just go ahead and rotate these, something like that. All right. And then if we scan again, I should find that relative 90 degrees. And again, if I right click on it, I get all those different options on how I want to make them 90 degrees.
Tom's curious, could it be the precision of the drawing, why it didn't pick up on your stupid small?
I have no idea. I haven't looked into it. I mean, we can try. So let me close out of this. All right, so I'll take this one and move it 0.000001 again. And then we'll just double check it. No errors. Going to the units. Max out our precision. Scan again. Still no errors. So I don't know what's going on, but I ran across this and I thought this would be important for everybody to notice, to know about. So, but yeah, it's definitely worth a try. But
And then Robert was questioning, will this fix Civil 3D objects or just AutoCAD entities?
I'm pretty sure it's just the AutoCAD objects because it is an AutoCAD tool. But I haven't tried it on any Civil 3D objects yet.
Hey, I just like the 90-degree thing because whenever I get, drawings I'm trying to bring in from an architect.
Yeah. Yeah, those are cool for people that aren't doing civil work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those two roads that intersect each other at 90 degrees, it's not truly 90 degrees. It's close to 90 degrees, but it's never exactly 90 degrees.
Yeah, I like the forced arcs that you do for radiuses of 1.87 feet or something like that, where they just freehand in.
Yeah,
and they're not even snapped to the ends.
Yeah. So this was one thing I wanted to show off. The other thing I wanted to show off was the Autodesk Assistant. So I was playing around with this a little bit, and let's see. Let me draw in a couple other polylines here. We'll copy this around. Oops. Copy this around a few times. We'll explode some of those so that they're just lines. So we've got some lines, we got some polylines, etc. So if I select this and I go into my properties here, you can see we have 20 lines and 4 polylines, right? So it's just something I was going to use as a test. And so I can come here into my Autodesk Assistant. Now, if you're going to be using the AI stuff, make sure that you turn the tech preview option on within your Autodesk Assistant. How did I get to the Autodesk Assistant? Well, it's this little button up here that makes no sense on what it is, other than it's a bunch of diagonal hatches. It's a diagonal hatch that kind of is messed up.
Hey, at least it's consistent in all their products. That's what it looks like in Revit as well.
Does it? Yeah, at least they're consistent. Cool. So I thought what I would do is I would come in here and I would say, ask, how many lines are in the drawing? And we're doing this live. All right. This is how long it takes to figure out how many lines are in this drawing. So it says there's 20 lines. I don't remember what I said. Was it 20 lines? Yeah, 20 lines. Cool. And then I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then I said, what's the average length of all the lines in the drawing? So this just kind of gives, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to open it up. If you don't have 27 yet and you want to see what kind of things we can query in here, throw in some suggestions.
Is it just a query or can it do other things like, hey, can you turn all the lines in the drawing red? Can you show me can you turn all the pipes that are less than 5% or a 0.5% in the slope, turn them green?
Yep. Hang on, I'll get to one of those here real quick. But it's kind of cool. It does give us the average length. So 292.21 feet, and it gives us, hey, here's are the lines, right? And then I'm like, okay, cool. Let me draw a line across the whole thing here. And then I'm going to ask the question again. What's the average length of all the lines in the drawing? And if you remember, the average length was, where was it? 292.21. So this definitely should be different now, right?
Yeah, I've been experimenting with this in Revit. It's hilarious. Brian just asked, can you get it to change colors? You can in Revit, but then you say, okay, put it back. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Wow. Oh, scary.
So it did change it. This time, when I ran it, did this exact same thing earlier, it said, oh, I've already calculated the average length. Here it is again.
Hmm.
So it didn't go through and re-query all the objects. I had to ask it to, which I thought was really odd, right? But then I was like, okay, so let's see. Uh, how many lines are shorter than 300? Right? So 12 lines shorter than 300. Sweet. I want to see which ones those are. Uh, make all the lines shorter than 300 red. Because I want to know which ones they are.
It would be my luck. It would take all the lines and make them less than 300. Unfortunately, can't change it. Oh, look at that.
I can't do it. That's interesting. So it's then able to do some things like that.
Move them to a different layer.
Oh, we could try moving to a different layer. Let's see. Let's move them to the layer um, A dash building dash footprint. All lines shorter than 300 to the layer A dash building dash footprint. Was that right? FPRT. This is a limitation of the current tool capacity. While I can query
Yeah.
line properties, I can't change them. So that's interesting. Another thing that I came across, and I'll see if I haven't tried to duplicate this recently. I had somebody reach out to me saying, hey, I've got a let's see, let me just get a point in here real quick. And we'll put this into a point group. And we'll include that point, right? Whatever. And so I've got this point group in here called point group one, but somebody was complaining about they're getting a whole bunch of extra point groups in their drawing. They couldn't figure out why. It turns out that somebody was in the drawing and doing a control C and then a control V with the point.
Oh, geez. Oh, my God.
Right?
No,
Which
no.
was creating an additional point group. That might be because this point group is not, let's go in here and let's just do include all points. Try that again. Control C, Control V. Yeah, there you go. So you can see if we're starting to get these point ones and all sorts of stuff. Show changes. Right. And so they had like 50 or 60 point groups in their drawing. And they're like, do you have a routine that can get rid of these? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's try Autodesk Assistant. So I went into Autodesk Assistant and I said, delete all point groups that end with a number, please. I always say please, because you don't want to be one of the people they target when the robot apocalypse happens.
Hmm.
See, I always figure I want to be the first to go, so I always say dumbass when I type in my stuff. That way I'm the first one to go and I don't have to live through that robot apocalypse.
All right. So 3 points will the point groups that end with the numbers are, but that one doesn't end with a number. It ends with a closed parentheses. Interesting. So this is kind of nice. It says, unfortunately, I cannot delete the point groups because the Civil 3D yada, yada, yada. The first time I tried this, it said, oh, yeah, sure, I can delete those point groups for you. I deleted the point groups. And the point groups were still there. And I said something like, the point groups are still there. Could you please delete them for me? He's like, oh, yeah, sure. I deleted them now. And they were still there. So just take it for what it's worth. So come on, folks. We need some questions. I'm running out of topics to chat about here.
Well, since you are in Civil 3D 27, somebody did ask, Daniel asked, what is your thoughts of it so far?
I haven't had much of a chance to really get in and use it a lot yet. I really do like that the daylight feature line option.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah, that's really cool.
If anybody's not seen that, I can show it again real quick. So I like the daylight feature option because it's super simple and what we've needed for since, oh gosh, I think we've been asking for something like that since the 2004 release.
There was no 2004 Civil 3D.
Well, there was the preview release in 2004,
Yeah.
right? But if
It's
anybody
like
wants me to show that, just put it in the chat or something, and I can show it. But I really like that. Desktop companion.
Hey, I liked LDD. It was fun.
I used back when I was doing design in Land Desktop, I would literally there were nights that I would lay in bed at night just thinking to myself, why when I move a line do I have to go through and rebuild the surface and redraw the contours and do all the profiles and all the sections again? It should just do it for me. And then
Mhm.
very shortly after that, Civil 3D came out, and I was like, yes.
So there you go. You asked,
Yeah.
and some people responded. Scott did say, "Can you please show the daylight feature?"
Yes, I
Um,
absolutely can.
but you now have like 7 questions, so keep that in
Awesome.
mind.
So this is just one of the tutorial drawings. Let me let's see. Can I use Autodesk Assistant for? I think I've done this before. Um, what's the name of this surface? So this surface is proposed ground. Please change the proposed ground surface to display 1 foot contours. There it is. Now displaying 1 foot contours. So it's basically said, hey, I'm going to go find it. Oh, yep, you got one. Do we have any styles? Yep, we got one style. Let me go ahead and change it to that style. So cool. That was kind of handy.
Can you undo that?
Yeah.
Don't you have that? You don't have that capability in Revit? You can't undo? Oh, that's kind of weird.
No, that was a question. If Autodesk Assistant does something, it was a question John asked. Can you undo it?
Yeah. Yeah. I was able to undo it. The redo command is no longer working. I wonder, oh, did I zoom or something? I might have zoomed. Um, I'll just change it here. All right.
So my question would be, if you did 10 other things in between, can you then go back and say, can you change that proposed ground surface back to its old settings?
Man, that would
So
be awesome.
if you use AI to do it, it should remember it did it, that you should be able to say, hey, go back to what it was before.
All right. So I've got a polyline here. Let me go ahead and make this into a feature line. There it is. Feature line create from objects. I am going to not put it in site one because that's evil. We'll just use the selected entity layer. We will assign elevations, but we're not going to insert any grade breakpoints just to get it to follow the surface. All right, so we've got a feature line here. And then let's see if I can remember where that was. Is it under grading? No. Where was the command for that? Create daylight feature lines. Feature one. And then I can use a criteria set, and then I want to grade to surface. So these are your criteria set from your grading tools. All right. And then we'll go left, select the surface. We'll go a slope of 3 to 1 and a slope of 3 to 1, and it creates a new feature line for us. And then I can repeat the process, and I can go to the right. Apparently didn't remember my criteria. That was annoying. I'm gonna go right.
Just, but it's allowed to have bugs and not remember things because it's a tech preview.
I don't know if the daylight feature line is a tech preview.
But your little dialog box said tech preview at the
I
top.
did it. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it
the
does.
big
Yeah,
giant side magenta looking line. Yeah.
Didn't even see it.
yeah. Good call. Good call. But yeah, so it creates these feature lines for us, and then we can take these and add them to a surface and get a nice little cut through these fill areas.
I don't
So
have to explode grading objects anymore.
don't have
Yes.
to explode grading objects anymore.
God.
Thomas did have a follow-up on your AI 1 foot feature lines. What if you have two 1 foot contour styles?
This drawing did have two 1 foot contour styles. So the first when I asked the AI to do it, it chose one of them. And then when I went and undid it, and I decided I didn't want to wait for the AI to figure out how to do it, I just changed it myself. I chose the other 1 foot contour style. So, so yeah, that's the daylight feature tool. I think is pretty cool. So,
On 2027 option, Quinn asks, are the tool palette blocks in 27 the same as those in 26?
tool palette blocks. I have no idea. So are you talking about like the multi-view blocks and the all that fun stuff? Uh,
Yes.
So if we go, say, to the civil multi-view blocks, I haven't heard of these being changed yet. So I mean, there's still a lot of those blocks in here. Um, there's the sample tool palette. So they all look to be the same.
Yeah, Quinn said it looks the same to him too.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it being changed, but I don't know.
And Robert wants to know in 27, is there anything new for pipes or pressure pipes?
Anything new for pipes or pressure? Not that I'm aware of. So if we go into the help system, let me pull this over here. There's when you go into the help, just hit F1 or however you want to get into it. There should be a new features right there.
That was not magenta, but almost as big.
Right, right. So this will kind of walk you through what all the new features are. So there's a horizontal regression analysis. There's .NET 10 support. Yes, finally. Some API enhancements, some new Dynamo stuff. The Autodesk Assistants, the drainage tools. There's the feature line. Let's see what's under the miscellaneous intent. Pipe and pressure pipe catalog and forma data management. Improved spiral tessellations, connected support file access, bridges, and Mr. SID support. Mr.
So one
Sid
thing
is
on your .NET 10,
Mr. Sid is no longer supported. I wonder if the attorneys had anything to do with that.
so on that .NET 10, I have heard from add-ins for Revit that Autodesk is going to try to go back to all old products and also update it to .NET 10 because now .NET 8 is no longer going to be supported by Microsoft, and they're trying to not have non-supported Microsoft things. So just throwing that out there, I know for us in the Revit world is going to be a big deal because if you've got somebody who hacked an add-in that you're using, they're going to have to rebuild that add-in.
Yeah. Good to know.
So yeah, they're going to go back and do it for the all three current plus the previous three versions of Revit. So I don't know, AutoCAD's all still been based off of, the same file format for years. I don't know what that means for you guys.
I don't know either, honestly. But if you're like, yeah, but I was using 25, I want to know what's new, then you can just scroll down and see what's new in Civil 3D 2026 as well. Right. And then it'll take you to the help for that. And you can see what was released in each version update of 26.
And there were two comments in the chat. They got rid of Mr. Sid because of security issues. And I guess Mr. Sid got new owners and they are trying to work with Autodesk to get back under compliance for the security issues. So it might come back.
There you go. Yeah.
And then while you're still there, Daniel asked if we could go back to the geometry cleanup and go to the settings box for the gap tolerance. He just wanted to see it, I think. What did you need to do in there, Daniel?
So there's the gap tolerance. So you can see the gap is showing as less than or equal to 0.35.
So I guess that would be it for that.
Yeah.
And then with 27 having Forma bridge compliant, to play with tolerance, see if it gives it a kick. That's what Daniel said.
Sorry, what was that?
Daniel said play with the tolerance to see if it gives it a kick, like makes it rethink about it if you change the tolerance value.
Yeah, I've played around with the tolerances. It didn't seem to make any difference for what I was doing. I haven't tried to make them like super small though. Let's try that again. So let's see 0.000001. I'll select the objects. Make that less than 0.0001. Scan. Still no errors. So something about it being really, really small is it's not picking up on it.
And then Quinn had asked if anybody's using the Forma/ACC bridges yet, since it said there was a new feature in 27
Yeah, I haven't done anything with
for
bridges.
the bridges.
We don't do any bridge work here at GEI, so it's not something I've messed around with at all.
Cool. So sorry, Quinn, you're SOL on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So Jason has a question. Anyone have any recommendations for converting a project that was done with Bentley OpenRoads Designer to Civil 3D?
Ooh, that's a fun one. I've never used OpenRoads, and I very rarely ever deal with any files from OpenRoads. However, if I remember correctly, in the toolbox, I don't know if it comes in at default or not. There's a tool that can help you with that conversion. It's the Civil 3D data trans. Is it the trans? No. I might have it in 25. Or 26. Let me open up 26 here real quick. See if it's installed here. But I believe there's a tool that lets you import the open. Is it OpenRoads or is it the Geopack stuff? I don't know. I get so confused with the Bentley stuff.
Well, it used to be inroads. I think it went to OpenRoads. And yeah, it's kind of the OpenRoads is like a conversion of the Geopack with because the Geopack and inroads were like corridors and grading objects.
Yeah.
But that's way back when I barely knew anything about it. So I'm gonna now do what I always should be doing and be quiet.
No, I don't have it installed here. Again, it's not something that we use very often, do much here at GEI. But there is a tool somewhere that lets you do that. Let's see if we can do a Google search for that. Civil 3D Data Translator, I believe is what it's called. Civil Engineering Data Translator. So this is the help from 2019, but Bentley Geopack, inroads, but it does not say OpenRoads. But again, this was the 2019 help. Let's see. Civil 3D data. Engineering. What was it called? The Civil Engineering Data Translator. And I'm going to search for 26 because I don't think it's out for 29 yet, would be my guess. Import Civil 3D, Bentley Geopack, and inroads.
Yeah, Chris says he thinks that's all it still handles.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it does OpenRoads. I don't know what the file differences are between Geopack, inroads, and the OpenRoads is, but it doesn't look to do that. So OpenRoads should be able to export out to a land XML file. You can then take that land XML file and import it into Civil 3D, which would bring in your surfaces, alignments, and profiles and things like that.
Mhm.
But I don't know what it does and doesn't do since I don't have OpenRoads. So sorry about that, man.
And Jason said that if you actually take the OpenRoads file and put it in an ACC format, it's pretty decent for viewing. So that way you had something at least to view and see what's going on if you don't have OpenRoads.
Good call. And for those that you don't know, Autodesk Construction Cloud is now the Forma, and the Docs is Forma, and everything is Forma now. So if you're wondering what we're talking about when people mention Forma, it's the either Docs or ACC. I think ACC is Forma.
Yeah,
What is
till the next
ACC?
change.
What is it?
Till the next change.
Yeah, till the next change. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a big reason why they did change it and call it Forma because they're actually focusing on putting all the stuff out in little data packs. So pretty
Mhm.
soon, I think you're going to be able to see for Civil 3D all the different XMLs and things being able to just be extracted, easily posted, and go back and forth between the two.
Very
Long
nice.
live BIM 360, Jason. That's right.
Jason, that's not even right. You got to say long live skyscraper. See, if you're really in the know, you knew it was called skyscraper. If you go to some of the programming, it still says in the actual programming skyscraper.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
That was the beta. That was the beta field for it that I was involved in way back when. And then for those of you who also did not know, after since last month's Civil Chat, there were releases for updates for 24, 25, and 26. So if you guys did not know that since the last Civil Chat, like the next day, there was 24, 25, and 26 updates. So just throwing that out there for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
And then yeah, Daniel's like, yeah, ACC is now Autodesk Forma document management. Yes, it's all confusing, and half the stuff in Autodesk shows it, and the other half doesn't. All
Yeah.
right,
So
go
my
ahead.
it's now Autodesk Forma instead of Autodesk Docs in File Explorer and all that fun stuff. So
Only if you updated to the new 27
right,
docs.
right.
Yeah. And if you're still in some of the Revit products, it says Autodesk projects as opposed to Forma or ACC.
Lovely. All right, what else we got?
So you got one from Quinn is saying, what are the benefits and cons to switching from SHP files fonts to TTF fonts?
Oh, font question. Font
Yeah.
question.
Ignore SHPs, just go with TTFs.
Yeah, true type fonts. So for those that don't know, a .shp. So if I go into styles, let me switch over to 27 again. That's not
I
what I want.
mean, you lose the
Text.
ability to make them bolder with your layers, but other than that, the true type font's definitely been a huge asset for us moving to.
Yeah. All right. So the default AutoCAD stuff that ships with the Civil 3D, you'll notice all the fonts are the text styles are using SHX fonts, right? And the SHX and this is based off of my understanding, and I could be completely wrong on this because I don't think I've ever heard anything official. But the SHX fonts are a throwback to the times when AutoCAD couldn't handle fonts. And
Well,
so what AutoCAD did is they created their own fonts, these SHX things, and they were basically just lines that were letters, right? So if I
also,
create,
yeah, remember AutoCAD was also built on DOS 320,
Yes.
right,
that was before true type fonts even existed.
right. So if I create a piece of text here, you can see it's just lines that are in the shape of letters.
Mhm.
And so this is an SHX font, right? The problem with an SHX font is it's not a Windows font. So if I were to take this file and publish it to a PDF and then open up this PDF in Bluebeam or Acrobat or something like that, and then try to edit this text, well, it can't do that because this is not a font. It's just lines, right? And so that's one of the big drawbacks of using SHX fonts is when these files end up in a PDF. If I were to use a true top font such as Arial, right? So if I copy this and I go back into my styles and we'll just change this one to Arial. And then I'll change this to using that font. Ooh, that's big. Anyways, right? So you can see this is a font. And if I were to plot this, then it would show up in the PDF as a font. And so that's kind of some of the advantages of a true type font because it is a true Windows font. One of the drawbacks, and I don't know if this is still an issue or not, is if a font or a piece of text is at a high elevation. So let's move it up 10,000 feet in the drawing, right? So I'm just going to use the move command. This is kind of fun. If it's asking you for a base point in the move or copy command, you can just hit enter to specify displacement. So you don't have to type like 0,0. You can just hit enter and it'll do that for you. And then I want to go 0,0, 5,000. All right, let's go 10,000.
I don't think it's a problem anymore. I saw it go
Yeah.
out of style around 12.
Okay. But I do know that back in the day, there was an issue with fonts at a high elevation they just displayed funny or they plotted funny or something like that.
Yeah, they were in between regular and bold in thickness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want to clarify that there are open type fonts as well as true type fonts, and open type fonts can also cause issues. So unfortunately, you won't ever know that unless you literally go into the fonts folder and see the font name and see if it's a TTF or an OTF. But even though it'll look like a Windows font, it can be an open type and still cause issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Here at GEI, we just use Arial for everything.
Yeah.
We don't use
It's
any other fonts.
try to use something standard straight out of Windows so that way you know when you transfer it to or somebody else opens the drawing, it's not going to ask for a translation font that it can't be found. And
Right.
also, you know what we found out, Brian, is some companies actually like to hack into the SHX fonts and change them a little bit for their own use. And so,
Really?
yes, and
I haven't run
so
across that yet. That's
yeah,
silly.
when I had a situation with Simplex where Simplex looked like Times Roman. But it was 100% all drawn up. And so every time we would display it and come in, it was saying it was SHX, but it was not. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. As
Yeah,
far as I know, the majority of people nowadays, as far as the fonts go, are using a true type font.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare that I see anybody that's still using SHX fonts.
Yeah, the only with the true type fonts is you do have to make sure they're installed on everybody's machine. The other thing is, and I actually had worked for a company way back when where somebody got and went and paid for a true type font and they liked, then they would just give it to all the consultants. And that font person actually somehow found out and they got, held liable for, pirating the font software. So that's one thing also to be cautious of. And the other thing that is weird for me is if somebody's using Windows on a Mac, a lot of the fonts we think are Windows fonts are actually Microsoft Office fonts. So Windows only comes with like 10 fonts. The majority of the fonts you see are Microsoft Office fonts. And I
Interesting.
only know this, yes, because I had a client who they were, in on a
Oh,
Mac, and they were like, "Well, I don't have that font. You said it was a standard Windows font." I thought it was. No, it's a standard Microsoft Office font.
oh,
Interesting.
something else that's been killing us is you can't put an SHX font into Revit very well.
No, at
They don't
all.
look the same when they're plotted. Yeah, so yeah, if you've got multi-disciplines that are using multiple versions of Autodesk items like Revit and Civil and AutoCAD, getting those title blocks to look the same when you're using an SH fonts is almost impossible.
Yeah. So there you go. Hope that answers the font question.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna type respond to answers to Daniel's. But does talk about too. The other thing that's really weird is your SHX fonts, like Haley said, going into PDF, but you can also have issues with PDF fonts as well. Because every time you convert something into like, especially if you're using Bluebeam, it has its own version of the Arial font or its own version of the Calibri font, and you can actually have corruptions in there. So I've seen people who've customized the Arial font to have custom symbols in there, right? Whatever they wanted, but then when they print it, it's like, well, it's not printing properly to PDF because you're customizing the Windows version of it, not the PDF version of it.
Yeah. Just stick with common simple fonts.
And don't go to a lot of my structural engineers will go add some of the symbols and change it to be like PL for plate line as opposed to the degree symbol. Or terrible example, but something like that.
Architects are notorious for using ridiculous fonts.
Way back when I worked in AutoCAD, one of the guys installed, God, what was it? It was some like Photoshop type program, and when he installed it on his computer, it gave him an option to 20,000 fonts. He chose He chose a different font for every AutoCAD project. Yes.
I oddly like that person.
I was
Love
like,
it.
oh my God, that was all right. So Kyle has a question. Now that they've added the midline grip on feature lines in 26, any tips on how to quickly visualize, differentiate between the feature line and a polyline? We were trying to see if we could change the color grips on feature lines, but CAD doesn't appear to have any option to specify different colors based on
Oh,
different types
interesting.
of objects.
So I'm gonna draw a polyline here, copy it over. Oops. And we'll take this one and make it into a feature line. Um, if you get out your ruler, you can obviously see that that grip on the feature line is slightly bigger than the polyline.
Oh, that's totally obvious.
Yeah. I mean, who can't differentiate the 3 pixel difference?
Well, they tried to help
Um,
us.
there's, I don't know of any way to change that.
Ask your AI assistant.
Let's ask AI.
I think
Feature
I got a kick out of
lines.
watching Brian's reaction. Oh, which Brian doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm just laughing because every single thing I've tried to do with AI and Revit has just been an utter, sorry, I can't do that. Oh, I could do that, but I can't go back.
Uh,
Viable
that's why
from
we're here,
a
having fun.
polyline.
Yeah, Quinn, the rollover tooltip did say different things for the polyline than the feature line. So if you did hover over the grip, it did tell you what it was. But then again, if you're
Yeah.
hovering over it or you have it selected to hover over the grip, you'll see it's a feature line or a polyline.
It's talking about changing styles, but no thanks.
Well, I mean, the context sensitive ribbon will immediately swap whenever you select the feature line.
Yeah, but it's
I
still,
know
it's not,
you got
that's
to
not
pick
what
it.
Kyle's
I,
looking
I know
for.
that's not what we want.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I don't know of a way to do that. Um, Perhaps somebody in the chat can throw in an idea if they're familiar with anything. Looks like Quinn says there's a referencing the rollover hover tooltip. So if I hover over it, it says feature line. If I hover over this one, it says polyline.
And if you hover over the center grips, you also got different options.
Yeah. Yeah, stretch, add vertex, convert, and then convert, insert, and insert. So, but yeah, I'm glad they put the center grip on there for the multifunction grips. But I agree. I would. It was really nice to be able to identify polyline from a feature line that way, unless it was a 3D polyline, because then it looked the same as a feature line. So
And
anyway,
that's what the ideas forum is for. Go put it in there as an idea. All right, Joel has a question. Does your Shift Ortho override work? We're having issues with the new Windows update breaking it.
It does not work. It's been verified. It broke.
so I'm moving this. I'm holding the shift key down. It does not work. I noticed this earlier to either today or yesterday as well.
Yeah,
I don't know why it's not working.
we've got.
Maybe that's what that new
Yeah,
service pack that
F8
came out
will still
was.
do it for you. F8 toggles it on and off, but
Yeah,
that shift override was really handy.
it's almost
Yeah.
all of those are I can't remember. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the names of the list of items, but in the CUI underneath those transparents, almost none of them work seem to be working for us. So it was where was it at? Was it in
Mouse
the
button? No.
rollover or is in the quick? I can't remember where it was at. Does anybody in chat know my by chance? I'm looking on Featureline vertice and see if I can change those for y'all while you're looking at this one, but this one interests me as well.
Type I options.
What?
Was that the same thing as hitting Control F4?
Keyboard shortcuts?
No, let me see.
Uh,
I know it was in the CUI because it gave the list of the items.
double click actions. Might be menus. So you're talking about like other shift select tab things?
Exactly, yes.
So like, for example, if I have something selected and I shift deselect it, well, that still works.
Temporary override keys, right underneath keyboard shortcuts. So go to keyboard shortcuts, expand it, go to temporary overrides. Those are your temporary override keys. And you can
I've
see
never
it.
played around with these before.
So like you can go to oversnap, your O snap override for midpoint, holding Shift V at the same time while you're trying to snap to something.
Seriously?
Check it out. Let's give it a shot.
So polyline from there, and we'll do Shift V. That's a midpoint. Holy crap! I did not know those existed.
Hey, I showed Brian something new. Oh crap! Somebody mark this occasion now.
See what happens when you actually show up, Tomasi?
Oh, whatever.
I was
You
on
guys
keyboard
killing it.
shortcuts, temporary over. I'm gonna have to go investigate these a little bit more.
Oh,
Can
she's.
you
I
create
got
your
a
own?
new toy for you, man.
Can you create your own in here?
I think you can.
Let's delete.
Copy, and now it doesn't look like you can, but it looks like you can change them around though. New toy. Oh, but you know what? Ones that aren't like the snap override extension. So if you want to extend something or do an insertion, that's kind of cool. Apparent intersection. Yes, let's use it.
Yeah, so here's the toggles ortho mode of just shift.
Maybe if you make that shift something else and see if it works that way.
Do like
just
a shift space? No. I mean shift 0.
That's too far away.
I know, I'm just testing.
Depends. You can use the shift on the right side of the keyboard.
And then if I
Not
move, right, shift, obviously not doing anything, but if I hold down shift and 0, so holding shift and 0 will do it. So it's just the shift by itself that's not working.
All right, there we go. Problem solved.
Dang, I learned something new today. I love this. Thank you, Brian.
Which one? No, just kidding.
Definitely not this one when it comes to adding something.
I can't take credit for this, man. I can't take credit for this one. Somebody else showed it to me. So, but that's what we're all here for, right?
Yeah.
All right,
so as a couple of folks have put in the chat, there are some other things that will affect the shift, especially trying to deselect things. So if you hold down the shift key and you select something that's already selected, it will deselect it. If you have an image in here, so let me throw an image in here real quick, attach an image. This is a new computer. Do I have any images? Pictures? Anything in pictures? No, there's nothing in pictures. Let's go find a picture real quick. Let's look for Civil 3D images. I'll take this picture. Save image as. Let's throw it under pictures. Perfect. I now have an image to bring in here. And I'll send that to the back. So if I select these two lines and I want to deselect this one, when I go to deselect it, what you'll notice is it's actually selecting the image. All right, so I hold down the shift key and I select that line, it's selecting the image. And that's what it's intended to do. So if I just hold shift and I pick inside of an image, it selects the image. And that's the default, right? However, I don't ever want it to do that because I deselect things way more than I select images, right? And so if you go into your map I options. I
Just
believe
eye
it's
options.
one place for it. Under general, there's a shift left click to select image. So I'm going to uncheck that. And now when I come in here to deselect it, I can deselect it.
Yay.
And I think the raster tools has one as well. I don't have raster design installed on 27 here. And I believe it's the eye options. It could be in there as well. So if you run into those issues, you can find it there too. So, okay, cool stuff. What do we got next?
All right, Scott has a question. I seem to be using level of detail and region all on large contour files in 27. I don't have any issues with the same file in 25. Graphic driver or card has not changed from 25 to 27. Frustrating, I can't find white papers. Any helps or ideas?
That I don't know. I haven't tried any large surfaces in 27 yet. One of the things the Autodesk team is always talking about is that performance is better in 27. So that kind of surprises me because it should be better because that's one of the things they're always touting that they've improved on. Um, so unfortunately, I don't have any experience with that. Perhaps somebody in the chat would be able to help you out. So folks in the chat, if you have any ideas on how to help Scott out with this issue, please let us know. We haven't pushed 27 out to our masses yet because we're still missing some of the other add-ins that we use.
Yeah, it's not September yet.
Right? So sorry about that one, Scott.
Is the 27, is the geo image closer to true?
I don't think the data has changed. So the 26 and 27 are still using the same image sources. So, and that's not something that's controlled by Autodesk. So Autodesk connects to the Esri stuff, or it connects to the Microsoft Bing, or it connects to whatever image surface it is, or image provider it is. So whether it's true, accurate or not is up to those image providers. So you should get the same images in 26 and 27.
Did them wrong or right.
And then Scott said the performance in 27 is awesome compared. He was commenting on your last chat.
Oh, right.
And then Quinn's last question with 0 minutes left. Quinn asks, what PDF viewer do you all use?
Bluebeam Review.
Bluebeam Review.
Yep.
I use Bluebeam Review as my viewer, and Haley will know this one. I also oftentimes, when people say they're having issues printing the PDF, the biggest thing for me is to go install a program called Cute PDF. It's a little free tool, and it is one of the dumbest PDF tools out there. What I mean is it'll print you the smallest files that'll do things. 'Cause half the time people are trying to print the Bluebeam, it's trying to add so much intelligence to that PDF, it can blow up.
I will concur.
So that's me. I use Cute PDF to print to it as well.
Yeah. Now, I want to throw something out there because I like making Autodesk responsible for their product, and I don't like them pointing the finger at the PDF driver that you're using is causing the problem. I always use DWG to PDF, which is an out of the box. It ships with Autodesk, so that way at any point in time you can always go back to them. But
Yep.
yeah,
DWG to PDF. That's what we use as well.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't use the Bluebeam printers. We don't use the Microsoft PDF printers. We use the Autodesk PDF creator.
So far, I haven't had any issues with that. But and also you can I mean, if he goes into his PDF options, you can give it multiple. You can have it moved.
Yeah. If I bring up my 26 and I go to plot, you can see what we've done is we've made multiple copies of it. Oh, I'm gonna pull down with the different DPIs.
Yeah, there you
with
go.
layers and without layers.
Yep.
So my personal opinion is if you're creating a PDF for construction documents, there is no way in hell I will ever include layers.
Yep.
Because a layer might get turned off and then they build it wrong.
And I like the fact that you're using the 120, 150, and 300 DPI. You're doing that both with your rastering, right? Because I find people love to bump the rastering up, like on a 24 by 36. The only reason to bump a raster up is if you're going to actually have to blow that image up bigger.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep your PDF size down, make your raster DPI lower. There you go.
And as far as if I remember correctly, the DPIs in here. So just so folks can see, if I let me go set that DWG to PDF. I go into the properties here under graphics. Where is that? No, somewhere.
Oh no, I was talking
custom
more in the other.
properties.
No, hit cancel. There you go.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
The raster quality. So that's what
Yeah.
we're referring to. As
Yeah.
far as I know, this only is effective if you have raster images in your drawing when you're plotting them.
Yeah, correct.
If you don't have that, this doesn't come into play. So,
yep. But a lot of times we've got a lot of rastering behind our stuff, and
yep.
17 meg PDFs. Come on, people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for showing up. Looks like we've got no more questions. We had some good questions in here today, so thank you very much. That was awesome, as always. I will post this up onto my YouTube channel for you guys to peruse at your convenience. And until then, you all have a fantastic month, and we'll see you again in June. So take care, everybody.
All right, thanks. Bye.